In fact, Home Minister has said India didn't cede an inch of land to China. Amit Shah has spoken, saying Lok Sabha opposition did not allow question hour. Shah says that India did not cede an inch of land. An assurance given to the naysayers. Home Minister Amit Shah hails the Indian troops for fighting back. Well, that said, Rajnath Singh anytime now will begin to speak in the parliament on the clashes that's taken place. In fact, India and Chinese soldiers, both of them on both ends, at least 20 of them have suffered minor injuries after a face-off along the line of factual control in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh. Rajnath Singh begins to speak. Listen in.
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं इस गरिमामयी सदन को अरुणाचल प्रदेश के तवांग सेक्टर में हमारी सीमा पर 9 दिसंबर 2022 को हुई एक घटना के बारे में अवगत कराना चाहूँगा।
प्लीज स्टेटमेंट के बीच में नहीं बोलते। नो प्लीज
में छुट्टी भी थी। 9 दिसंबर 2022 को पीएलए ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई है। भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया अध्यक्ष महोदय। इस झड़प में दोनों ओर के कुछ सैनिकों को चोटें भी आई हैं और मैं इस सदन को अवगत कराना चाहता हूं कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है। इंडियन मिलिट्री कमांडर्स के टाइमली इंटरवेंशन के कारण पीएलए सोल्जर्स अपनी लोकेशंस पर वापस चले गए अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शंस के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए कहा गया। इस मुद्दे को चीनी पक्ष के साथ कूटनीतिक स्तर पर भी उठाया गया है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं इस सदन को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हमारी सेनाएं हमारी भौमिक अखंडता को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इसके खिलाफ किसी भी प्रयास को रोकने के लिए सदैव तत्पर है हमारी भारत की सेना। और मुझे विश्वास है कि यह सदन हमारी सेनाओं की वीरता और साहस को एक स्वर से समर्थन देगा। और अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त हूं कि यह संसद बिना किसी संशय के भारत की सेना की क्षमता, शौर्य, पराक्रम व प्रतिबद्धता का भी अभिनंदन करेगा। धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय।
कोई माननीय, आप वरिष्ठ सदस्य हैं, सदन नियमों प्रक्रियाओं से चलता है और नियम प्रक्रिया के अंदर कोई भी स्पष्टीकरण का सदन में, लोकसभा में नियम प्रक्रिया नहीं है। आपका कोई रिकॉर्ड में नहीं जा रहा। आप एक चीज रिकॉर्ड में लो। एक मिनट मेरी बात सुनो। एक मिनट बालू जी, प्लीज। अधीर रंजन जी, एक मिनट प्लीज। बालू जी, प्लीज सिट डाउन। हाँ प्लीज, मैं प्लीज। एक मिनट अधीर रंजन जी, एक मिनट अधीर रंजन जी, एक मिनट। मिस्टर सुरेश, प्लीज सिट डाउन। मैं सदन को ये निवेदन करना चाहता हूं कि हमें हमारी सेनाओं की वीरता और साहस पर एक साथ समर्थन करना चाहिए, ये संकल्प लेना चाहिए। सदन की तरफ से रिकॉर्ड में सब चीज आ गई है। सभा पटल पर रखे जाने वाले पद, आइटम नंबर 2, श्री प्रहलाद सिंह पटेल।
अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं आपकी अनुमति से आज की संशोधित कार्यसूची में क्रम संख्या 2 पर उल्लेखित दस्तावेज में सभा पटल पर रखता हूँ, जो रिक्टम कुंडली और पोल्ट्री प्रोसेसिंग बोर्ड से संबंधित है। धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष जी।
पर 2022 को हुई एक घटना के बारे में अवगत कराना चाहूंगा।
प्लीज स्टेटमेंट के बीच में नहीं बोलते। नो प्लीज,
बीच में छुट्टी भी थी। 9 दिसंबर 2022 को पीएलए ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई है। भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया अध्यक्ष महोदय। इस झड़प में दोनों ओर के कुछ सैनिकों को चोटें भी आई हैं और मैं इस सदन को अवगत कराना चाहता हूं कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है। इंडियन मिलिट्री कमांडर्स के टाइमली इंटरवेंशन के कारण पीएलए सोल्जर्स अपनी लोकेशंस पर वापस चले गए अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शंस के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए कहा गया।
All right, that was Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Soon after meeting with the military and the diplomatic leadership, Rajnath Singh has arrived in the parliament and he's just given a short address to the point on exactly what's happened, the border clashes between India and China along the Arunachal Tawang region. Rajnath Singh saying that this was a brief clash. India did not cede an inch of land, and both injuries occurred on both sides, and quickly both the troops went back to their position. Let me cut across to Abhishek Valla, who's been tracking those developments there, joining us live for a little more. Abhishek, a quick word. Here we see Rajnath Singh, Defense Minister, arriving at the Parliament, clearly stating that China tried to alter status quo. India has given a fitting reply. India has fought back. Not one soldier has died. No critical injuries reported. China, the PLA, have gone back to their standpoint. Tell us a little more.
That's right, and this is something that we have been reporting since yesterday, that China was trying to change status quo in the area by trying to dislodge an important Indian position at about 17,000 feet. And there was a build-up to this for about 2 weeks. Sources told us when the Chinese were making advancements continuously and were trying to dislodge an Indian position, and as a result of that there was a lot of tension. The situation had turned volatile, but on 9th December when the Chinese came in much bigger numbers, that's when this face-off turned really ugly. There was stone pelting from the Chinese side as well, because of which there were several injuries to the Indian soldiers. What the Defense Minister said was that there have been minor injuries on both the sides, and that China tried to change status quo, but they were pushed back. Situation remains tense, even though there has been no face-off since December 9. But as far as the ground situation is concerned, the Indian Army keeping a very close watch on the Chinese activity in the Yangtze sector, especially opposite Yangtze is where the Chinese have been enhancing their military infrastructure for over a year now.
Right. Abhishek Balla, do elaborate for us a little on what Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said while mentioning that there has been no casualties, no critical injuries on the Indian side. India has fought fittingly and pushed back the PLA who attempted to alter status quo. Along that region where the clashes have happened in Arunachal, is that a constant friction point? Have Indian troops been keeping the PLA on their toes, ensuring that they don't infringe? Has this been a constant tussle?
Well, Yangtze in the Tawang sector is one of the disputed areas, Nabila, and it's been a flashpoint for many years. There have been several face-offs in this area. In fact, this is one of the positions where the Indian side is in complete control. This is perhaps the only disputed site between the Indian and Chinese sides where India is in control on ground. And this is what riles up the Chinese. Often they come and they try to change status quo. This has been happening for years, but this time that face-off turned really ugly. And it's not as if that clash happened out of the blue. There were a lot of activities, dialogue happening between the local commanders over the last 2 weeks or so. And it was boiling up. And the build-up was such that the Indian side was also pretty well prepared to face any kind of mischief, if one can say, misadventure, if one can say, from the Chinese side. They were expecting this. India has enhanced its surveillance capabilities in the Arunachal sector over the last few years. As a result of that, there's real-time intelligence. There is a big thrust on drones. There's a big thrust on the aviation of the Indian Army, which has been enhanced. And in totality, India is better prepared to catch all Chinese activities across the line of actual control. And this was, in fact, a result of better surveillance capabilities that the Indian Army was able to thwart this attempt to dislodge an Indian position in the Yangtze area of the Tawang sector.
Right. Stay with us, Abhishek. Let me quickly cut across to Lieutenant General Ashish Ranjan Prasad, a defense expert, joining us for a little clarity on this. Mr. Ranjan, at this point, we see that Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, very categorically stating India has given a fitting reply. The PLA were pushed back to their standpoint. But at the same time, this is a matter of concern and worry that close to a year later, a friction of this nature has been reported from the Arunachal region. What does it speak of the Chinese troops and their intentions?
Yeah, it's a very, very apt question, which I can see now. But let me tell you, I totally agree with the defense minister when he says that India has given a very apt reply. मैं आप लोगों को ये बताना चाहूँगा कि there is a difference when you talk in Arunachal and Eastern Ladakh that there is a perceived border. It's a different ball game altogether. जब आप LC, LAC या IB की बात करते हैं, perceived border की बात करते हैं, इन तीनों चीजों में बहुत बहुत अंतर है. और जिस तरह हमारे जवानों ने एक बहादुरी का नमूना दिया है, जिस तरह हमारी मिलिट्री एंड पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप जिस तरह से इस चीज को संभाले हुई है, वो बहुत ही काबिले तारीफ है. और मैं आपको ये भी बताना चाहूंगा, ये सब संभव हो सका है ऑलमोस्ट नियर रियल टाइम इंटेलिजेंस जो हम लोगों के पास अब अवेलेबल है, आइदर ड्यू टू इंक्रीज्ड सर्वेलेंस रिसोर्सेज और ड्यू टू इंक्रीज्ड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वॉरफेयर या इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर जिसको कहते हैं. इन चीजों का जो इनपुट हमारे पास अब हमारे मिलिट्री लीडरशिप को अवेलेबल है, उन्हीं के चलते आज ये संभव हो सका है कि एक बिल्कुल मुंहतोड़ और बिल्कुल ऐप्ट जवाब दिया गया है. मेरी राय इसमें यही है कि हम सबों को धैर्य से काम लेना चाहिए और पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप एंड मिलिट्री लीडरशिप का पूर्ण रूप से साथ देना चाहिए. धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
जी, लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल रंजन जी, आप ये could you give us some clarity on this disputed region? ये dispute क्यों है? And we believe that border area is very poorly demarcated. What's the reason for that? Why isn't there a concrete plan on what borders belong to India and what belongs to theirs? I know it's an age-old question and it's a fight that's been on. All right, Lieutenant General, please do stay with us. I'm going to cut across to the Lok Sabha proceedings that's currently happening live with the opposition.
Let me use the next few minutes to point out what the data, the statistics tell us as to who the actual Pappu really is. NSO numbers were out yesterday. Industrial output has shrunk by 4% in October to a 26-month low. The manufacturing sector contracted 5.6%. Manufacturing is still the biggest generator of jobs. 17 of the industry sectors that make up the index of industrial production have recorded negative growth rates. Forex reserves have fallen by $72 billion in under a year.
All right. Coming out of Mahua Moitra there, as we hear, the Parliament a little while ago has spoken extensively on the skirmishes that has been reported along the border of Arunachal. Lieutenant General, a quick word from you on why is the border poorly demarcated, and that's possibly causing these skirmishes. I know it's an age-old question. I said this is a fight that's been going on for decades, but yet, is there a solution that could be brought to the table?
Yeah, once again, I will say it is a perceived border. Please understand the difference between when we have demarcated the border by international border, IB, where you have a line, and we have actual demarcation being gone, where there is a border fencing and where there is a little bit of no man's land on either side. This is a different ball game and scenario. But when you have perceived border, I was myself posted in Chushul, Loma, Neoma of Eastern Ladakh. And I found at that point of time when I was commanding my regiment in Leh, I found that Leh Ladakh and that side, I found that it is possible to go, kilometer after kilometer without any hindrance. But these days, when you have increased surveillance resources, you have to only be able to solve the things with the talk and diplomatic level. Because when you talk of a perceived border, you cannot actually say this part of the land belongs to me and this part it does not. So I totally agree when they say that in my perceived Indian border, no territory has been lost. It's absolutely truth. And that should be only supported in an unequivocal manner. Thank you.
Lieutenant General, a quick word. All right, I'm going to cut across to the Parliament. Thank you, Lieutenant General Ashish Ranjan, for joining us. Shashi Tharoor speaking in the Parliament right outside.
हमारे जो विजिलेंस है हमारे तरफ से और उनके तरफ से कि उनके जो सोच है ये सीधी बात नहीं है हमारे देश के लिए और हम हमारी टेरिटोरियल इंटीग्रिटी हमारी देश की सॉवरेनिटी के लिए बहुत बहुत कामयाब भी है और इसमें हम एकता के साथ हम रेजिस्ट करेंगे।
All right. We do know that the Congress has been mounting pressure on the BJP, questioning them why the delay in a clash like this was reported. Let me cut across to Lieutenant General Ashish Ranjan, if he's still joining us. General, a quick word. The relationship between India and China, as of now, we know has been strained. In fact, it's taken a beating in the last few years itself. It's gotten from bad to worse. China not really stepping back. In fact, they've had this very deceiving face. They say something, do something else. How far can we really believe them when they hold talks, commander-level talks, and promise to maintain peace and tranquility?
Actually, we have to only believe only till that point of time where we are in a position of strength. Whenever they get into a position of strength, they do spring certain surprise. वो कुछ ना कुछ इस तरह की हरकतें जरूर कर देते हैं जिससे ये पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी डिस्टर्ब होती है। लेकिन इन सबों का सॉल्यूशन शायद एक ही चीज में है जो हमारे पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप बातचीत डिप्लोमेटिकली because please understand it is a perceived border. It is not something which is already demarcated border and there is lot of difference. I can only say that we should try to resolve the issue by mutual discussion, talks, commander level, diplomatic level, and political level. Thank you.
All right, Lieutenant General, stay with us. I'm going to quickly cut across to our Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who spoke in the Parliament just a few minutes ago, speaking very clearly on India's stand with regards to this clash.
9 दिसंबर 2022 को पीएलए ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई है। भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया अध्यक्ष महोदय। इस झड़प में दोनों ओर के कुछ सैनिकों को चोटें भी आई हैं और मैं इस सदन को अवगत कराना चाहता हूं कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है। इंडियन मिलिट्री कमांडर्स के टाइमली इंटरवेंशन के कारण पीएलए सोल्जर्स अपनी लोकेशंस पर वापस चले गए अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शंस के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए कहा गया। इस मुद्दे को चीनी पक्ष के साथ कूटनीतिक स्तर पर भी उठाया गया है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं इस सदन को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हमारी सेनाएं हमारी भौमिक अखंडता को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इसके खिलाफ किसी भी प्रयास को रोकने के लिए सदैव तत्पर है हमारी भारत की सेना। और मुझे विश्वास है कि यह सदन हमारी सेनाओं की वीरता और साहस को एक स्वर से समर्थन देगा। और अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त हूं कि यह संसद बिना किसी संशय के भारत की सेना की क्षमता, शौर्य, पराक्रम व प्रतिबद्धता का भी अभिनंदन करेगा। धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय।
All right, in the backdrop of the clashes, politics now brewing as the Congress firing fresh salvo at the centre alleges Modi of hiding information on the clashes. Gohil says, Congress Neta, clashes occurred on December 9th, but why was it reported now? Gohil accusing the BJP, the centre, saying that the incident has been unreported until the Gujarat oath-taking was complete. Congress claims secrecy on the Indo-China clashes. This is the allegation made by the Congress. Let me cut across to Supriya Bhardwaj joining us on the phone line. Supriya, we see the Congress now raising a point, asking why did the centre not report on these clashes between India and China on the day it happened. It happened on 9th of December, where we find reports surfacing on the 11th of December. Why did it take 2 long days for the Modi government to alert Indian citizens on the clashes that took place at the border?
Well, the opposition, as far as the Congress is concerned, has upped the ante against the government. There is this entire matter which has walked with both houses of the parliament, though Raksha Mantri has given the statement. But right now, also again, the Congress party as well as other opposition parties are demanding that a full-fledged discussion needs to be taking place as far as the situation at the Tawang border is concerned. Also at the same time, a lot of opposition leaders are demanding that a joint parliamentary committee has to be formed in order to stop of the situation which is taking place at the Indo-China border. Well, we just spoke to some of the Congress leaders and they're saying that why can't an all-party delegation be sent along with some experts to the border and to ascertain as to what exactly the situation is. So yes, the entire matter has walked both the houses of the parliament, whether it's Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, though Raksha Mantri has made a statement, but still the Congress party and other opposition parties are not bound back. They're still demanding that a full-fledged discussion needs to be taken place. The government has to tell us why there was this delay in telling the parliament as well as the nation that the clashes has taken place this time in the Arunachal.
You know, Supriya, the Congress, they're very specifically stating that the BJP has waited until the oath-taking ceremony of Gujarat Chief Minister and the cabinet yesterday. This happened early yesterday. By the afternoon, there was the oath-taking ceremony that took place in full grandeur. And it appears that the clashes between India and China occurred on the 9th of December, literally 2 days before the oath-taking ceremony, which the Congress is pointing out, asking why did the centre wait until the oath-taking ceremony to place such important piece of information? What more has the Congress leaders said?
The Congress leaders are maintaining that the situation which is at the border is really very sensitive. It's very serious in nature. On the other hand, they are alleging that the government deliberately delayed this information about the clashes at the border. They are saying this was all done because of the ceremony which was supposed to take place in Gujarat. And they have said that also the Congress party is going all out and targeting the government on this very issue, saying that why...
And we have Shakti Singh Goel, a Congress Neta's reaction to that. Stay with us, Supriya. Let me cut across.
सरहद के अंदर ब्रिज बना रहे हैं, हमारे लोगों को उठा के ले जा रहे हैं। इन मुद्दों पे हमारे पास भी इंफॉर्मेशन है। आइए बात करें। राष्ट्र की सुरक्षा, सेना की चिंता हम करना चाहते हैं। आप आके मंत्री जी एक मुद्दे पे बयान दे के चले गए और जाओ फुटो, ये कोई हाउस में तो बात नहीं हो सकती।
All right, that's Congress Neta questioning why was there a delay in the BJP announcing these clashes that occurred on December 9th. They deliberately waited up until the Gujarat oath-taking ceremony that took place in full grandeur for them to actually announce such important piece of information. Home Minister Amit Shah, though, on the other end, the Parliament has clarified on the clashes, stating that India has not ceded an inch of land to China. They put them in their place. Here's what he said. Listen in.
राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के एफसीआरए लाइसेंस रद्द होने का एक दूसरा भी कारण था। इस्लामिक रिसर्च फाउंडेशन की, जिसका प्रणेता जाकिर नायक है, जाकिर नायक को पूरा देश जानता है, उनसे भी 7 जुलाई 2011 को 50 लाख रुपया राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन ने प्राप्त किया था। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के कर्ता धर्ता जो कांग्रेस की फैमिली पार्टी है, उसी के सदस्य हैं, तो आपको ये पैसा जाकिर नाइक ने किस मकसद के लिए दिया था, इसकी भी स्पष्टता देश की जनता के सामने होनी चाहिए। मैं इतना स्पष्ट कहना चाहता हूं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार है, नरेंद्र मोदी इसके प्रधानमंत्री है, और जब तक भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मोदी सरकार चल रही है, 1 इंच जमीन पर भी कोई कब्जा नहीं कर सकता। कल अपने सेना के जवानों ने जो 8 की देर रात को और 9 की सुबह को जो वीरता दिखाई है, मैं इसकी बुरी बुरी प्रशंसा करता हूं। इन्होंने घुसे हुए सभी लोगों को कुछ ही घंटों में वापस खदेड़ दिया और हमारी भूमि का रक्षण किया है।
All right, India Today very closely tracking those developments there. Parliament session continues. Discussion on the same, the clashes between India and China. We're going to slip into a short break. Be right back. To stay with us.
India Today exit poll silences all.
The BJP is set to record history in Gujarat.
Projected total tsunami in Gujarat.
The biggest ever BJP victory in Gujarat.
Only poll calling Congress win in Himachal.
Congress 30 to 40 seats in this election.
Validated, vindicated, victorious. When you are an outlier, it shows. No herd mentality, 100% courage and ability.
Access My India Today group exec poll. Once again.
Strength of conviction proved again.
We have the most accurate pollster with us.
The only pollster picked it absolutely bang on.
The gold standard of getting it right. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
गरिमामयी सदन को अरुणाचल प्रदेश के तवांग सेक्टर में हमारी सीमा पर 9 दिसंबर 2022 को हुई एक घटना के बारे में अवगत कराना चाहूंगा। उपसभापति महोदय, 9 दिसंबर 2022 को चाइनीज पीएलए ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया। उपसभापति और सदन को यह भी बताना चाहूंगा, इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई और भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया। इस झड़प में दोनों ओर के सैनिकों को कुछ चोटें आई हैं। उपसभापति महोदय, मैं इस सदन को यह बताना चाहता हूं कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ। इंडियन मिलिट्री कमांडर्स के टाइमली इंटरवेंशन के कारण पीएलए सोल्जर्स अपनी लोकेशंस पर वापस चले गए और इस घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग भी की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शंस के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए उन्हें कहा गया। इस मुद्दे को चीनी पक्ष के साथ कूटनीतिक स्तर पर भी उठाया गया है। उपसभापति महोदय, मैं इस सदन को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हमारी सेनाएं हमारी भौमिक अखंडता को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इसके खिलाफ किसी भी प्रयास को रोकने के लिए सदैव तत्पर हैं। मुझे विश्वास है कि यह सदन हमारी सेनाओं की वीरता और साहस को एक स्वर से समर्थन देगा और अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं आश्वस्त हूं कि यह संसद बिना किसी संशय के भारत की सेना की क्षमता, शौर्य, पराक्रम और प्रतिबद्धता का भी अभिनंदन करेगी। धन्यवाद।
माननीय रक्षा मंत्री के अरुणाचल प्रदेश के तवांग सेक्टर में 9 दिसंबर 2022 को जो घटना घटी उसके बारे में एक विस्तृत वक्तव्य सदन के समक्ष रखा है। माननीय सदस्यगण, हमारी सेनाएं पूरी मुस्तैदी और ताकत के साथ हमारी सीमाओं पर तैनात हैं और उनके शौर्य और वीरता पर पूरे सदन को हम सबको विश्वास और भरोसा है। देश की सीमाओं की सुरक्षा और संप्रभुता के लिए सर्वोच्च बलिदान देने में भी हमारे सैनिक सदैव तत्पर हैं और रहेंगे। माननीय सदस्य, यह एक संवेदनशील विषय है। जैसा माननीय रक्षा मंत्री जी ने बताया, सरकार उत्पन्न हुई स्थिति को पूरी गंभीरता के साथ ले रही है और सभी आवश्यक कदम उठा रही है। मुझे विश्वास है कि इस संवेदनशील मुद्दे पर पूरा सदन एक है और एक मत से हम यह संदेश इस सदन से देना चाहेंगे कि देश की सुरक्षा की चुनौतियों का सामना करने में सभी दल और पूरा देश एक साथ है। माननीय सदस्यगण, मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा इस सदन के अतीत के कुछ उदाहरण। सेशन नंबर 210 में 6/3/2007 को नक्सल अटैक ऑन श्री सुशील कुमार महतो एमपी लोकसभा, इस विषय पर। फिर सेशन नंबर 212 26/11/2007 को सीरियल बम ब्लास्ट यूपी। फिर सेशन नंबर 215 13/3/2009 को फॉलोअप मुंबई टेररिस्ट एक्ट। फिर 215 सेशन में 18/2/2009 को सिचुएशन इन श्रीलंका इन संवेदनशील विषयों को देखते हुए क्वेरी पूछने के बहस करने की आगे प्रक्रिया नहीं बढ़ी। इसलिए इस पर भी जो क्वेरी आए हैं, मैं निवेदन करता हूं कि कोई क्वेरी इस पर नहीं होगी। धन्यवाद। क्वेश्चन नंबर 64 के डॉक्टर के सर मंत्री जी, क्वेश्चन नंबर 64, क्वेश्चन नंबर 64 मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स, सम क्लैरिफिकेशन। व्हाट इज दिस सर? व्हाट प्रैक्टिसेस आर टॉकिंग डॉक्टर डीपी बट्स, आपका सवाल। सभापति जी, आपके माध्यम से मैं पूछना चाहता हूं कि यूजी और पीजी, खासकर पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट मेडिकल सीट्स कंटिन्यूअसली फॉलिंग वैकेंट हैं। नेशनल मेडिकल कमीशन या हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री क्यों नहीं इसका स्टैंडर्ड रिलैक्स करके इन सीटों को पूर्ण करती, ताकि देश को क्षति ना हो।
जताई है कि कुछ सीटें वैकेंट रहती है यूजी की या पीजी की। सर, लगातार आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में आज देश में यूजी सीट्स और पीजी सीट्स।
All right, you have some chaos within the parliament as the opposition raising several questions. Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, has categorically said that the PLA troops attempted to alter status quo at the line of actual control along the Tawang region, Arunachal Pradesh. The Indian side has given them a fitting reply, and not one Indian soldier has been critically injured or any fatalities reported on the Indian side, while the Chinese troops indeed faced injuries. Let me quickly cut across to also our guest joining us, Lieutenant General Ashish Ranjan Prasad, the defense expert, for a little more on this. Ashish ji, as we see the parliament discussing extensively on the friction between India and China, that clearly, it of course comes in the backdrop of concerns about India's border areas. We're talking about world powers, India along with China. China's defense mechanism, we know, is quite strong. Should we be worried on any level? Is India mighty prepared?
Yeah, I will not like to use the word worry. Definitely, we must ponder how to develop our border area so that our road network, our infrastructure development takes place, so that we are able to do a very quick reaction in the required time frame. But we have correctly been taking the appropriate step of late. I must say that we are very correctly. If you look at the state of Himachal Pradesh, if we are looking at Shipkila border in the district of Kinnaur, there are a lot of development which have taken place or in taking place. Where you talk of Leh Ladakh, Loma, Nyoma, that area, those areas, all these places, the road network is truly developing. So to that extent, I think it's a matter of pondering that how we can hasten up. But I will not like to use the word worry. At the same time, we have to also push forward our agenda of boosting up our surveillance resources so that near real time or before even the intent with the artificial intelligence, we are able to monitor them more quickly so that we can give them a very apt reply. I think this is the time that we have to consolidate and not get into the political petty debate as such. This is what I can feel. And I don't think that there is a worrisome. And some people raise the issue that it has been delayed reporting. No. After all, there is a system of, something has happened at the battalion level, and people will like to check, counter-check, do flag meeting. After that only, the national leadership can come out with any statement. So I think it is totally in place the way things are happening. and we have to only support it morally.
General Ranjan, I'd like to probe on that a little bit. You said you did speak about how there's got to be cognizance of the issue first, a thorough understanding on what's happened, and only then a statement to be given out. That could have been the reason for the delay for the centre to announce the clashes between India and China. Would you be able to elaborate what exactly is the protocol when such a nature of clashes take place? When we're talking about border security, which is such a matter of concern. You may not use the word worried, but for a layman, it is a matter of concern. What really are ideally the protocols that the government should follow before making a formal announcement on a fight of this nature?
आप देखिए, एक बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग का हमारे यहाँ प्रोटोकॉल बना हुआ है कि पहले बटालियन रिपोर्ट करती है ब्रिगेड को, ब्रिगेड रिपोर्ट करता है, and it may not happening in a serial manner. Sometimes things do happen in a very, very parallel manner. But all this chain of command, ये जो hierarchy है, brigade, battalion to brigade, brigade to, division or corps, and then going upwards till command. And in between, flag meeting is very, very important aspect, which one can do only with the, after due consultation with the respective मिलिट्री ऑपरेशंस डायरेक्टरेट, जिसको मैं डीजीएमओ, जिसको हम सभी डीजीएमओ के नाम से जानते हैं, तभी ये फ्लैग मीटिंग वगैरह संभव हो पाता है, और तब तक आपका इतना समय जरूर बीत जाएगा. देन ओनली एनी काइंड ऑफ नेशनल लीडरशिप कैन गिव एनी स्टेटमेंट. तो ये प्रोटोकॉल हमारा बना हुआ है. आई थिंक दिस इज वेरी मच इन प्लेस एंड वी शुड वेट एंड गिव टाइम दिस मच.
All right. So this ideally would take about a day or two. Is that what you say? By the time
I will definitely say it will take about 24 to 36 hours.
All right. I think that gives some clarity. The opposition, as it mounts pressure in the parliament on the ruling government, asking why the incident that took place on the 9th of December was delayed to be reported. Our Lieutenant General here joining us, giving us some clarity on that. But do stay with us, General Ranjan. I'm going to cut across to Gaurav Sawant, India's #1 war reporter, who's currently en route Tawang, exactly the flashpoint between India and China. Gaurav, a quick word from you. We see you're en route. You're on your way. What's the situation currently as we speak? We heard Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in the Parliament saying all is well.
So, tension, of course, remains high between India and China at the line of actual control, and not just in Ladakh, but all across Arunachal Pradesh and in Sikkim, where the Chinese have repeatedly tried to transgress, as the Raksha Mantri also said in the Arunachal Pradesh at the Yangtze point. But China could not succeed. And India today has some details about how India was well aware of the Chinese build-up. The fact that the Chinese were trying, the fact that they were building up to try and not just transgress, but take over or dislodge the Indians from one of the positions where India is well entrenched. The Chinese tried, but they failed and went back. But does that mean that they will not try again? Clearly, India hopes that the mechanisms that are in place will be followed. But as far as the Chinese are concerned, we've seen this. They've tried salami slicing of Indian territory for decades. They tried that in Galwan. They tried that in Pengong Tso. They've tried that in other sectors, and they have tried that at Doklam in eastern sector also. But in Arunachal Pradesh, given India's history since 1962 and the fact that India is so well entrenched, now with infrastructure coming up, and as we continue our conversation, we will show you some of the infrastructure built up on the Indian side. The Chinese did not succeed and are unlikely to succeed ever.
Gaurav, as developments coming in on this clash between India and China along the Tawang region of Arunachal, the Indian troops have indicated that there are regions along that area, the Tawang sector where the clashes took place, that have different perceptions in terms of what PLA calls their claim lines, or the Indian side claiming their border areas. So both sides are constantly patrolling up to their claim lines. So that usually could occur in skirmishes. But this time around, we hear that the PLA have brought larger troops to those areas of line of actual control. And that's what's worried the Indian side.
once again, spot on there, Nabila, because there is a perception difference, and China refuses to mark these points on the map. Because if there is a marking, if both sides are aware of what the claim lines are, China continues to try and push the envelope. They don't say what their claim line is, and from what the sources tell us, whether it's Ladakh or Arunachal Pradesh, China keeps changing its claim line. There are times that China claims entire Arunachal Pradesh, claiming it is the southern part of Tibet. But that is something that India rightly contests, and that is unacceptable to India. So we've had a situation in 1962. We've had a situation in Nathula in Sikkim in 1967. You've again had a situation in 1986 in Sundarongchu. So India's learned we've learned our lessons very well as a nation, as an army, of course, from what top commanders tell India today. And that is why when Chinese try something, they think that they'll be able to push the Indian soldiers back a little, continue with the salami slicing of Indian territory. And in this case, as was the case in Doklam, the Chinese did not succeed. So what they end up doing is building up a little more on their side, and the potential for confrontation continues to remain there. Even in Doklam, when China did not succeed, because India had a red line, the moment there was an apprehension the Chinese would cross India's red line, India went and stopped Chinese construction activity beyond a certain point. And that shows India is very clear about what our red lines are. And in every situation, whether it's Ladakh or Doklam or here, India's red lines, that the moment Chinese try and cross it, there is a response.
Right. Gaurav, stay with us. As we know, the opposition, the Congress particularly, have been, literally mounting pressure on the government, asking why a quick report on the clashes was not presented on the day it happened. Why has it taken 3 days for these reports to surface? Ninong Ering, Congress MLA, right from that same region, Arunachal, Pasighat West. Ninong, thank you very much for speaking to India Today, and I know you understand very well the nitty-gritties of the border area along the Arunachal region. The clashes that have taken place between India and China, is that a matter of concern for people in that area?
Yes, it's a real concern for all of us, because China has already claimed that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of South Tibet. But our Honorable Chief Minister Sri Pema Khandu he is arguing that no, we have no borders with China. We border only Tibet. Now you will see that I am sitting in such a place. This is Adipasi. This is in Upper Siang. We get Gailing in the border, and then if we take an aerial distance, just about 20 kilometers above towards those hills, you'll see those hills there. Yeah. We are just about 20 kilometers away from the Chinese border. We have these issues throughout let it be in Chaglaham, let it be in Kibito, let it be in Gailing, let it be in Bumlao, let it be in Upper Subansiri. We are always having this issue. Before we did not have these issues. Now China is, I think they have their own problems, but just to, divert those problems, they now do these kinds of nuisance activities. I'll call it nuisance activities because army expert was saying that the case of Sungdung Su was completely ours.
Right.
When a fine morning, when our shepherds and these Brokpas went back to Sungdung Su, they suddenly found these Chinese army guys here. Now also because of this cold, intense cold, and because of this snow, the army have to withdraw a bit. They come down to Tawang or they go down to Rupa. So that is just an exercise. Now, but it is our land, and especially if you go through the McMahon line, we are at the defensive side. And China is always claiming that no, Arunachal is part of China. So I'm very sorry that this kind of attitude, that mindset should be changed. Our defense minister, I know him personally because I was with him in parliament 2 times. Our external affairs minister is quite, very eloquent. He's really doing a good job. But what we want, that we want some specific, concrete, decision. What they are thinking of Arunachal Pradesh. Are we always to suffer. Now, when I want to go to China, I'm not given a visa. Why? Because they said that Arunachal is a disputed area. Now, we have a minister there. We have Mr. Kiran Rijiju, our law and justice minister. And then you say that we are disputed. How can that be? We cannot accept it. And this issue in Tawang, it is very unfortunate. But of course, I spoke to the DC, and DC said that they had a flying meeting, and the Chinese have resolved that, okay, we will not, the peace and tranquility should be maintained. So that is my take.
All right, so that's basically status quo, but how long will this be a point of worry and bother for the people in your region? Gaurav Sawant as well joining us. Ninong, I'd like to toss it to Gaurav Sawant. He's our war reporter. He's been closely tracking the friction points between China and India. Gaurav, over to you. Clearly, Ninong understands the tensions there like no other. He comes from that region and really seeing the suffering along there. Do take a question with him as you're approaching that area.
So, yeah, absolutely. You know, Ninong is a very well-respected member of parliament and a senior leader of the Congress party from there. But Ninong, I want to understand from you, what in your view is the way forward? Because these Chinese transgressions have been taking place for decades. And if we were to talk about Yangtze in particular, from 2006 onwards, there have been multiple transgressions from the Chinese side, each time pushed back. Sometimes, of course, there is a flag, a banner drill. Sometimes it leads to skirmishes. What's the way forward in your view? Whether there's a Congress government or a BJP government, what should India's view be?
I will not say, I will differ on you, because I will not say it's a BJP government or a Congress government. A government as a government of India must have, the people of Arunachal Pradesh must have confidence. Now, I was just speaking to some of the villagers here, and they said, no, we love our country. We are Indians. We don't want China. And we have already opposed them even in the 1962 war. Our people were there. They were very confident. And even in this day also, if there is any such touch wood, that there should not be such any incident. But if there is also, we are going to give them eat ka badali patthar se hum zarur denge. So what I want to say is that what is the way forward? First of all, we are not even, the China tells us that you are our people. You have to come on staple visa. So this itself, our external affairs minister and our defense minister, our home minister will have to intervene. Because, of course, because Honorable Prime Minister, when he has his talks with Jinping and all, he should mention these things.
Okay. As of now, what are you learning of the situation on ground? How tense is the situation?
I'll tell you,
and
on the ground.
Is Yangtze the only friction point, or are there other friction points along Arunachal Pradesh?
No, there are. You will see in Anjao district, in Chaklaham, you'll always find these incursions. You will find them in Upper Subansari, where, last time even some children were kidnapped. Now, what I'm saying is that they have built up infrastructure so strong. In fact, now in the recent visit to the Xinjiang province of China, where they are constructing a about a 60,000 megawatt dam. So here we have to take precautionary measures. How are we going to fight in the international level? We don't have an international treaty here. We don't have on the claim on the rivers. Brahmaputra is there. China has already built in the Zangmu region. They've already constructed 4 dams. Now they are going to have a very big dam here. So all these are a threat to us. Our people are afraid that why are we keeping silent? So we would like the government to intervene and tell that, see, we have to have the status quo. We have to maintain it. We are agreeing to the McMahon line. China does not accept the McMahon line. This was even in the when we had this Panchsheel agreement also.
You're absolutely right, and that's the reason for these skirmishes. China continuing to attempt to push the envelope up, but China continues to be pushed back like they have been in this instance. Naval, that's what sources joining us here on this India Today special broadcast. Many thanks. We're slipping into a quick break. There's lots more coming up on the other side of these messages. Stay with us.
The showdown in Telangana continues as the YSRTP chief, YS Sharmila, Jagan's sister, has been hospitalized after her health deteriorated during an indefinite hunger strike. Sharmila was protesting against alleged denial of permission to continue her statewide Padayatra at the party headquarters on Friday. After her health worsened, doctors rushed to the protest site and warned that she was suffering from severe dehydration. The Telangana police then forcefully shifted her to a hospital in the wee hours of Sunday, breaking her indefinite fast. Doctors had on Sunday said that Sharmila's health condition had stabilized, but she needed bed rest for the next couple of weeks as her blood pressure and glucose levels had fallen to alarming levels. According to doctors, Sharmila is likely to be discharged later today. And Sharmila spoke exclusively to India Today while she was on her fast unto death. She lashed out at the KCR government. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
The court had initially given us an order to do the Padayatra. This is apart from the original permission that we had. So in spite of this fresh permission, KCR's government has denied me the right to go on a Padayatra. In protest, demanding that I be allowed to go on a Padayatra, I've taken upon myself to sit on this indefinite hunger strike. So what happened yesterday was that all my people were arrested. All the party cadre were arrested, and every police station was filled with my people. And also the police have imposed a curfew here all around this place where I'm sitting on a hunger strike.
So you heard YS Sharmila there speaking to us here on India Today while she was on her fast. And this was yesterday, soon after which, as her health deteriorated, she was rushed out and forcefully shifted to a hospital where doctors ensured that she broke her fast unto death. The reason she's been on this protest is because she says that the KCR government is continuing to try and stifle her right to protest and for her to go ahead with her Padayatra. Permission has been denied for the same, which is why she's been holding this agitation.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
प्रेजेंटेड बाय धूल आए पर घर पे ना टिक पाए।
Very good afternoon. You're watching India Today. I'm Nabila Jamal. We're very closely tracking the clashes between India and China. The Defence Minister has spoken in the Parliament, clarifying how India has given a fitting reply to Chinese troops. Taking you through those details, the headlines first. India thwarts the Chinese Army's bid to uproot an Indian post in Tawang. Defence Minister says China tried to alter status quo, but India didn't allow intrusion in their territory.
पीएलए ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है। अध्यक्ष महोदय,
Massive border words over Tawang clashes. Opposition accuses Modi of secrecy over clashes. Amit Shah counters, says Congress's Ruckus, a bid to shield Rajiv Gandhi Trust, which was funded by China.
ये जो राशि चीनी दूतावास से मिली, इसका उपयोग भारत चीन संबंधों के विकास पर शोध करने के लिए ये पैसा दिया गया।
China sets up division-level headquarters along Pangong despite multiple rounds of de-escalation talks with India. After his murder Modi tirade, cops arrest Congress Neta Raja Pateria from Madhya Pradesh's Damoh. Quite an ugly fight between Bollywood divas. Actor Nora Fatehi sues Jacqueline Fernandez for defamation. In fact, Nora claims that she lost reputation and endorsement deals because of what Jackie said. All right, Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, addressing both houses of the parliament, has said that China tried to change status quo at Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang sector. Rajnath Singh informed the parliament that Chinese troops entered Yangtze area of Tawang in early hours of December 9th, attempted to change status quo. Defence Minister has added that the Chinese troops were driven back by the timely intervention of Indian military commanders. He's added that while few soldiers on both sides suffered injuries during the standoff, no Indian soldier was killed or sustained grievous injuries. Rajnath Singh has further added that the matter was also taken up with China through diplomatic channels. In fact, the Defence Minister had chaired a key meeting with External Affairs Minister, the CDS, all three service chiefs, foreign secretaries and defence secretaries before he arrived to address the parliament.
हमारी सेनाएं हमारी भौमिक अखंडता को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इसके खिलाफ किसी भी प्रयास को रोकने के लिए सदैव तत्पर है हमारी भारत की सेना। और मुझे विश्वास है कि यह सदन हमारी सेनाओं की वीरता और साहस को एक स्वर से समर्थन देगा। और अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त हूं कि यह संसद बिना किसी संशय के भारत की सेना की क्षमता, शौर्य, पराक्रम व प्रतिबद्धता का भी अभिनंदन करेगा। इंडियन मिलिट्री कमांडर्स के टाइमली इंटरवेंशन के कारण पीएलए सोल्जर्स अपनी लोकेशंस पर वापस चले गए अध्यक्ष महोदय। और इस घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शन के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए कहा गया। दिसंबर 2022 को पीएलए ट्रूप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है अध्यक्ष महोदय। और इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई है। भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया अध्यक्ष महोदय। इस झड़प में दोनों ओर के कुछ सैनिकों को चोटें भी आई हैं और मैं इस सदन को अवगत कराना चाहता हूं कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है।
All right, let me quickly cut across to Gaurav Sawant, who's currently en route to Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh, exactly the friction point where he is headed towards. Gaurav, a quick word on the mood along that area. Have you spoken to people there? Has it really shaken them up? Because this is really a clash of such nature that's taken place post the Galwan Valley face-off. Give us a little sense on what more do we know and what happened.
So what we know is that the Chinese side was building up over several days. The fact that they had also used their unmanned aerial vehicles in this area and rather aggressively to patrol to see what was happening on the Indian side. So much so from what sources, and this is source-based information as of now, our sources tell us that the Indian Air Force had also scrambled some of our fighter jets to send across a very firm message. Those fighter jets, of course, flew in the area that they were meant to operate in. But very clearly, from military to military, a message went to China that India will not take anything lying down. But when the Chinese actually transgressed, as Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh said, they unilaterally tried to change status quo at the line of actual control in the Yangtze sector in Tawang, Yangtze Tawang sector, which is an altitude of between 16,500 to 17,000 feet. So that is extreme high altitude. Some 300 plus Chinese soldiers tried to overwhelm an Indian, position. The Indian soldiers were waiting. They were on superior ground. It led to some skirmishes. It led to fisticuffs. It also led to from either side. And in these fisticuffs, as Defense Minister Rajnath Singh said, that soldiers, both Indian and Chinese, were injured. Our information, according to sources, is between 8 and 9 Indian soldiers were injured. 3 or 4 had to be airlifted later to a hospital in Tezpur. But as far as the Chinese soldiers are concerned, the casualties in terms of injuries, including broken bones, broken limbs, fractures, much higher on the Chinese side is what we've been led to believe. And beyond that, the Chinese went back. They realized that they were not succeeding and they went back. So this happened on the 9th. On the 11th, there was a flag meeting at the level of the commanders on ground, in which a decision was taken to ensure that peace and tranquility is maintained at this line of actual control. And whatever systems are in place, those systems are followed, Nabila.
All right, as we track this story, we of course are also looking at enough and more politics that's been playing around this. Let me cut across to Abhishek Balla on that. Abhishek, the opposition, they're mounting allegations on the centre in the parliament, questioning why the incident took place on December 9th and the matter really surfaced only 2 days later on the 12th of December. These are the allegations. Do give us an understanding on what was the delay in reporting such a serious clash.
Well, the opposition once again trying to corner the government. In fact, this has been a touchy topic for the government ever since Ladakh, flared up in May 2020. It's been 2.5 years. The government has been rather circumspect in giving out the details of what happens at the LAC, because there is a sense that if there are things that are leaked out, that come out, it sort of riles up the Chinese even more, and things get out of hand. Several times officials have said off the record that the Chinese are very touchy about these details coming out in the public domain because China has a completely different kind of a setup where nothing really goes out to the public. But that's not the case in India. Here there is still a lot of transparency, but yeah, over the last 2.5 years, the government has been a little circumspect about giving out specific details to the military dialogue, or to the clashes or face-offs, or to the developments that take place at the line of actual control. Having said that, things have been extremely volatile since May 2020, not just in Ladakh, but in other sectors, be it the eastern sector, which includes Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, and even in the central sector, which is always considered calm. In Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, there has been a lot of enhancement in deployment from the Indian side, because India is seeing China as a real threat since Ladakh has happened, and there has been a lot of tweaking of tactics on the ground as far as deployment and formations are concerned, and really the focus has shifted from Pakistan to China as far as preparedness is concerned of the Indian forces.
All right. Do stay with us, Abhishek. I'm going to cut across to Gaurav on that. Gaurav, how serious in nature was this clash? Post the Galwan clashes, we believe this is yet another incident that could be called serious and important for us to take note of. Of course, speaking volumes of China's intentions when coming to actually maintaining status quo. At this point, we hear that there was huge Chinese build-up. The PLA troops in large numbers arrived at the line of actual control. Was this done with malicious intent?
You know, one understanding post Doklam and especially post Galwan and Pengong So in April, May 2020 has been that every intent of China is malicious. And India needs to realize that. Falling for that Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai Bonhomie, whether it was in the 1950s leading up to 62 or the attempt that was made, whether it was at Mamalapuram or Ahmedabad, it was one-sided. China's intentions remained evil throughout because China does not want India to grow. The more India's border infrastructure develops, and we are watching it right now, I have driven all the way up to Daulat Beg Oldie at the height of the standoff between India and China in 2020. So India's border infrastructure push has been massive in recent years. Massive in terms of, China had objected to one bridge in one subsector. They objected to one bridge. The moment, the situation worsened in Galwan, India has now built multiple bridges in that area. So earlier, it would take us, let's say, for example, 2 days walking from the roadhead to reach up to our petrol point. Now you've got multiple bridges. As of now, of course, neither India nor China are going up to the petrol points, creating a buffer zone in eastern Ladakh. But if we were to talk about here, once again, in the eastern sector, once again, there's a big push to build infrastructure, whether it's bridges, roads, wider roads, train tracks, everything to ensure that there's faster movement of men and material, not just militarily, but also economically, because India is now also looking in a very big way at Act East policy, which the government insists is to, be big with all with the Southeast Asian countries. Now, that would mean that China does feel that the advantage it traditionally enjoyed, it no longer enjoys that big edge. And this leads to more tension, more friction as India covers up, the gap and bridges the gap in terms of the technology the two countries have, or in terms of infrastructure development in the border areas specifically. That leads to friction. There would be more frictions, but the better prepared India is, as Abhishek and Shiv will also tell you, that better prepared India is, lesser would be the chances of Chinese trying any misadventure. Nabila.
All right, and quite evidently so, the Indian army, the military, all three units of the troops were present right there. They were well prepared to thwart any attempt by the PLA troops to alter the line of actual control, the status quo there. Let me quickly cut across to a detailed report. Gaurav, Abhishek, do stay with us. Indian and Chinese troops clashed in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh on 9th of December. Soldiers from both ends were injured in the clashes. We believe that the Chinese soldiers were far more critically injured than any effect to the Indian troops. Sources have told India Today that more than 300 Chinese soldiers attempted to gain access to the top of the 17,000 feet peak and were thwarted by the Indian Army Jawans. Here's a report on that.
One of India's most hostile battlefields, nearly 17,000 feet high in the Himalayas of Arunachal Pradesh. It is here, late in the morning of December the 9th, that Indian and Chinese soldiers clashed violently. The first violence between the two sides in over 2 years since the last major brawl in eastern Ladakh. The Friday clash in Tawang sector had been building up for the last few months, say sources. Chinese troop increases at posts across this particular sector of Arunachal Pradesh have kept tensions high. On December the 9th, a larger than normal Chinese patrol party approached the Indian side and was challenged by the Indian army post there. After a few minutes of aggressive posturing, raised voices and the usual loud calls to go back, suddenly stones landed on the Indian side. A grave provocation that violates patrol engagement protocol. What followed was a 15-minute hand-to-hand escalation that saw the Indian side literally pounce on the Chinese troops responsible for the provocation. The Chinese troops present in larger numbers were beaten up, but as is common in such brawls, injuries were sustained by both sides. Troops on both sides sustained fractures, black eyes and bruises, with 9 Indian and 22 Chinese troops wounded in the exchange. Thankfully, there were no casualties and no weapons are said to have been used, unlike the Galwan clash. The troops quickly disengaged to their positions. Hours after the clash in Yangtze, the two local commanders from both sides held a flag meeting to maintain peace and committed to remain engaged. On the very day that the Indian and Chinese troops brawled at the India-Tibet border, senior ministers of the Modi government were speaking about the border issue at the Agenda Aaj Tak conclave.
और हमारी डिप्लॉयमेंट हुई है, हमारे जवान खड़े हैं और माने उनका जो ताकत, जो साहस जो उन्होंने दिखाया है, उसकी हमें प्रशंसा करनी चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारी डिप्लोमेसी जो है उनके योगदान से चलती है।
भारत की सेना ने ये शौर्य और पराक्रम का परिचय दिया है, उसकी जितनी भी सराहना की जाए कम है। हम लोगों का सचमुच गर्व के साथ मस्तक ऊंचा हो जाता है।
Clashes between patrol parties aren't unheard of. There have been a handful of minor brawls between troops of both sides since 2020. But the fact that the big picture hasn't changed even slightly on the border, and that China continues to remain deployed in larger numbers at India's doorstep and has accelerated the construction of permanent infrastructure, settlements, military establishments and more, every brawl projects a threat way beyond just a few men beating each other up on a remote, snow-blown hillside. Bureau Report, India Today.
Right, let me cut across to Gaurav, who's currently en route to Tawang. Gaurav, a quick word on the tensions that prevail perennially, because we hear troops, the Indian Army, saying that this has been a friction point since 2006. And clashes have been reported constantly because of the undefined border areas. Really, what's the solution to ensure that India's borders are protected?
Better preparation, better, border infrastructure, because then China will realize that it is the law of diminishing returns. It will still try. Some of our military analysts have also been telling us, and if you recall in Agenda Aaj Tak, I put that question to the Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Kumar. China perceives it can keep India bogged down here, whether it's in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim or Ladakh, so that India does not give China grief in the Indian Ocean region. And this is where, virtually 90% of China's trade and oil passes through the Indian Ocean region, which is where China is extremely vulnerable. So these pinpricks, these friction points are only to ensure that India does not become too aggressive anywhere. And China, wants to be the only Asian superpower or world superpower. It's attempted this thrice now in recent years, Nabila, while you and I were reporting, whether it was Doklam in 2017 or the Pengong So incident, followed by the Galwan incident and Depsang, and now, of course, here. Each time China did not succeed in its attempts. Some argue that China has ensured that there is a buffer, within Indian territory, and it's achieved its aims. But the fact remains, China in Ladakh is also not coming up to its claim line of finger 2 if India is not going up to our claim line of finger 8. So India is also ensuring that we ensure that if there is grief for both. If there is happiness for both. The moment China realizes that that India is preparing itself, whether it's border infrastructure, better weapons, you need more Rafales, you need your more S-400 systems, you need independent communication system that China cannot take care of. Cyber attacks is something that China is mounting in a big way. Biological warfare is something that China has been accused of in the past. So it is a multi-dimensional war that India and other adversaries of China need to be prepared for. And as the Indian Air Force says, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, Nabila.
And China, really, their value for their own citizens is on full display, let alone soldiers. In fact, even during the Galwan clashes, the Chinese government did not even acknowledge the number of casualties or what kind of injuries their soldiers had incurred, while India very gracefully had spoken extensively on the injuries on our side, the fatalities on our side. But even with this clash, the recent one in Tawang sector, clearly here, India acknowledging that there has been some injuries, not critical, but some injuries to the Indian side and Indian troops there, very clearly pointing out that Chinese troops have faced some grievous injuries. Some broken limbs is also what we hear on the Chinese side.
You're absolutely right, Nabila. India is a democracy, so facts come out. The government may try to conceal it at times for whatever reason, but facts do emerge. As far as China is concerned, it's a dictatorship, and in a dictatorship, facts do not emerge, and quite sad, because China is quite like Pakistan. Pakistan did not acknowledge its dead soldiers, whether it was the Kargil war or subsequently. Similarly, China did not acknowledge its dead soldiers at Galwan. Not all of them anyways. They gradually will, perhaps in the years to come. But this was also leading to trouble in China. Look at the civil unrest that President Xi Jinping faces, despite being perceived as all-powerful in his third term. He is facing trouble. He has had to relent on COVID, restrictions in his own country. Sooner than later, there would be more trouble for Xi Jinping, given the way a closed dictatorship works vis-a-vis a democracy. At the same time, it is very essential for India to continue to build itself militarily, economically, and of course socially, to be able to checkmate China, which will remain a hostile power in the near future. Pakistan is no match. Pakistan has realized that it can no longer keep India tied down, and China perhaps is realizing that it cannot use Pakistan as much to keep India down in South Asia. Look at what's happening in G20. Look at India's rising stature. Look at how India's economy is growing. Some argue that in about a decade from now, we could be the third largest economy in the world. And that would mean that the power differential with China is reducing with each passing year. And that makes Xi Jinping very uncomfortable.
All right, Gaurav, do stay with us. Of course, as we see politics extensively that continues to rage over India-China clash on December 9th, opposition has fired fresh salvo at the centre, accusing Prime Minister Modi of secrecy over the clashes in Tawang. Congress has hit out at the centre, alleging that Modi government did not reveal clashes had happened on December 9th because they were waiting for the oath-taking ceremony, the grand celebration in Gujarat post their victory. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, meanwhile, hit out at the opposition over questioning the foreign funds received by Sonia-led Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. Amit Shah has alleged that India missed out on a permanent UN Security Council membership because of Jawaharlal Nehru. Massive ruckus has also erupted in the parliament over Tawang clashes, with opposition now cornering the government, accusing them of hiding facts.
कि राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन को 2005-6 और 2006-7 के वित्तीय साल में चीनी दूतावास से 1,35 लाख रुपए का अनुदान प्राप्त हुआ था। चूंकि एफसीआरए के कानून और उसकी मर्यादाओं के अनुरूप नहीं था, तो नोटिस देकर पूर्णतया कानूनी प्रक्रिया का अनुपालना करते हुए गृह मंत्रालय ने इसका रजिस्ट्रेशन रद्द किया था। 1962 में जो हजारों हेक्टेयर भूमि भारत की चीन ने हड़प ली, वो शामिल था क्या? और शोध इस पर किया तो रिपोर्ट क्या आई है? नेहरू जी के प्रेम के कारण सुरक्षा परिषद में भारत की स्थायी सदस्यता बलि चढ़ गई। इस विषय को उन्होंने शोध का विषय बनाया था क्या? और अगर बनाया था तो इसका नतीजा क्या हुआ? राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के एफसीआरए लाइसेंस रद्द होने का एक दूसरा भी कारण था इस्लामिक रिसर्च फाउंडेशन की, जिसका प्रणेता जाकिर नायक है। जाकिर नायक को पूरा देश जानता है। उनसे भी 7 जुलाई 2011 को 50 लाख रुपया राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन ने प्राप्त किया था। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के कर्ता धर्ता जो कांग्रेस की फैमिली पार्टी है उसी के सदस्य हैं, तो आपको ये पैसा जाकिर नाइक ने किस मकसद के लिए दिया था, इसकी भी स्पष्टता देश की जनता के सामने होनी चाहिए।
Our national security and a territorial integrity is being impinged upon by brazen Chinese transgressions as the government remains a mute spectator. The valor of our armed forces in Galwan Valley, Ladakh is well known, but China has brazenly transgressed into our territory since April 2020. The illegal and unprovoked Chinese transgressions upon Y Junction in Dipiang Plains continues till date. Similar is the state of Chinese transgressions into Gogra and Hot Springs area in eastern Ladakh.
मैकमोहन लाइन में ये बार बार इंसिडेंट होना इंडिया और चाइना का रिश्ता के लिए भी खराब है, और साथ में आई पर्सनली कंडेम द एक्ट ऑफ पीएलए ने जो काम किया ये बहुत गलत है, क्योंकि हमारा इंडियन सोल्जर्स बॉर्डर में 1 इंच भी हम नहीं सरेंगे, और चाइना जितना भी कोशिश करेंगे हमारा इंडियन आर्मी इसका जवाब देंगे।
मेरे ख्याल में कोई शक नहीं है कि चाइना की आंखें तवांग पे हैं, और तवांग सेक्टर में हमें बहुत बहुत होशियार रहना है। जो आर्मी ने कल किया मेरे ख्याल में पूरा देश का समर्थन के साथ किया है, और मैं तो राजनाथ सिंह साहब से ये भी कहा हमारे रक्षा मंत्री के कि इस विषय पे आप लोग एक साथ दिखाना चाहिए लोगों को, दुनिया को, कि भारत एक है। हर पार्टी के हर व्यक्ति जो है इस विषय पे हमारी फौज के साथ है, और मेरे ख्याल में जो कल हुआ ये तो एक बहुत बड़ा इशारा है हमारे तरफ से, हमारी जो रेजोल्यूशन, हमारे जो विजिलेंस है हमारे तरफ से और उनके तरफ से, कि उनके जो सोच है ये सीधी बात नहीं है हमारे देश के लिए।
मुंह तो सेना के पीछे क्यों छुप रहे हैं? आप डर रहे हैं चीन का नाम लेने से, आप देश के प्रधानमंत्री, आप सत्ता में हैं। डोकलाम में आपने देश को गलत कहा, डिसएंगेजमेंट कहा, वहाँ चीन बैठा हुआ है। प्रधानमंत्री ने लद्दाख के वक्त कहा था कि ना कोई घुसा है ना घुसा है, चीन घुस के बैठा है। डिसएंगेजमेंट आप करते हैं और उस मुकाम पे पेट्रोलिंग नहीं कर सकते हम पोंगसोंगसू लेक में। इस अरुणाचल प्रदेश में जहाँ पर झगड़ा हुआ है, लड़ाई हुई है, 12-13 हज़ार फीट नीचे से चीन ऊपर आता है, आकर हमारे फौज पे हमला करता है। क्या
करता है किसी विषय पे तो उस पे क्लैरिफिकेशन पूछा जाता है, और हमको यही कहा गया सदन के नेता ने, और हमारे डिप्टी सभापति ने भी यही कहा कि क्लैरिफिकेशन का अवकाश है, लेकिन क्लैरिफिकेशन को भी उन्होंने हमको मौका नहीं दिया, और हमारे बात सुनने के लिए भी वो तैयार नहीं है। हम यही चाहते थे कि चर्चा के बाद सुन के वो रिप्लाई दे, हम वो सुनने के लिए तैयार थे, लेकिन उन्होंने इस मसले को अपने ही तरीके से एक प्रचार लेने के लिए अपनी बात रखे और चले गए। ये देश के लिए अच्छा नहीं है। देश एकजुट रह के, हम देश के एकजुटता के लिए, एकता के लिए सभी मिलके काम कर रहे हैं। इसी में हमारे जो आज जवान लोग बहुत से पहले से शहीद हुए थे और आज भी बहुत घायल हो गए, और कितने उसमें बचेंगे। हम तो ये कामना करेंगे कि उनको जल्दी वो स्पीडीली रिकवर हो जाए और जल्द से जल्द वो फिर काम पे लगे। लेकिन ये चीज़ें बाहर नहीं आना, उनकी गलतियां छुपाने के लिए क्लैरिफिकेशन नहीं दिए। जब क्लैरिफिकेशन को मौका नहीं दिए तब वहाँ बैठने में कोई अर्थ नहीं है। तो इसीलिए हमने ये तय किया कि सब मिलके प्रोटेस्ट करके वॉकआउट करना। तो हम वॉकआउट जो किए हैं उनके एटीट्यूड के ऊपर, और वो जो कहना था और हमको बताना था वो चीज़ें हमको नहीं बताई। इसीलिए हमने ये तय, सभी पार्टी के नेताओं ने ये तय किया कि बेहतर ये है, खुद जब डिफेंस मिनिस्टर ही जैसा वॉकआउट करते वैसा उन्होंने वॉकआउट करके चले गए। फिर पूछना किसको। तो हमने ये सोचा कि हमारी बात तो सुनी गई नहीं, हम आपको बताने के लिए यहाँ आए हैं, इसलिए हमने वॉकआउट किया। लेकिन देश के सुरक्षिता के लिए, देश के अखंडता के लिए हम सारे एक हैं, और जो हमारे जवान बॉर्डर पे अब लड़ रहे हैं, हम सभी लोग उनके साथ हैं, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं।
एक मिनट उमाशंकर जी, एक मिनट।
All right, here's the huge breaking coming in. China has responded. A first response coming in from China after the clashes, as India gives a fitting reply to the Chinese troops, pushes the Chinese troops back the status quo. Here, China now downplaying this attempt, calling this entire situation as stable now. Says it's all stable. The situation is currently stable at the Indian border. This is the first response from China, really not divulging any details, and of course acknowledging their fault, and that's expected that China wouldn't really take up responsibility for what they've done, and this has been the face of China ever since. Let me cut across to Abhishek Balla for more on that. Abhishek, China now responding for the first time, a response coming in saying the situation is now stable on the Indian border. That's precisely the only line said by China so far. Who has spoken? Where does this statement come?
Well, once again, a very cryptic response, unexpected lines, Nabila. This is what China does whenever there is, a situation like this. They would always look to normalize these kind of clashes and face-offs. That's been the pattern, that's been the trend. China doesn't want to send a message as if there's a problem on ground, even though, things have turned really volatile. And even in Eastern Ladakh, after every face-off, a clash or any untoward incident, we've heard similar kinds of responses from the Chinese side. So this is nothing new. This is the basic protocol that China follows. Normalize the problems to show as if nothing much has happened, and this is how the salami slicing continues. This time in Yangtze, which is obviously not a new disputed area. This is a spot which is a known flashpoint for many years now. And in fact, what irritates China, especially in this sector, is that this is one of those disputed spots where the Indians are in control. And that's what China has been trying to do, trying to change status quo here. This time, things got out of hand. Face-offs have happened here in the past, but this time it turned ugly. There was stone pelting from the Chinese side. There was a build-up over the last 15 to 20 days. Both sides have been ramping up their infrastructure, their military facilities, and perhaps that was the reason that triggered this ugly clash on 9th December.
All right, Abhishek, if you could give us some more clarity on the kind of injuries that the Chinese side have incurred. Of course, there's really no way to substantiate it in terms of a statement coming in from China. We can only expect them to downplay it. But the Indian side has very clearly said that they've given a fitting reply to the PLA, and that there could be injuries extensively to the Chinese soldiers as far as broken limbs. This is what we hear. Give us a little more on what the Indian Army has said on the attack on Chinese troops for infringing the border area.
Well, the Indian Army has said that there are injuries on both the sides, and this is what you would expect a professional force to say. When two armies, soldiers of two armies come to blows, there are fist fights, there's stone pelting, then there are injuries bound to happen. Nobody can escape an injury in a situation like this when troops from both sides in big numbers come face to face and get involved in a fist fight, in a scuffle. So it would be rather foolhardy for the Chinese to deny any injuries because that's obviously not possible. And we don't really expect a transparent kind of a response from the Chinese. It did not happen in Galwan. It took them months to acknowledge that there were deaths on their side.
Right.
And when they did so, they said that there were 4. So in a similar kind of trend, we can expect the Chinese to come up with some statement months later that they had injuries to their soldiers as well. So this is nothing new. China always likes to play down such incidents.
Unlikely of China to really reveal what's been the injury on their end or the loss on their side. But nonetheless, what we know now for sure is that the Indian troops have given a fitting reply to China. We're going to continue tracking those developments. For now, a short break. Stay with us.
News is about putting people first.
Just look at the queues right across.
About asking the right questions to those in power.
Is money power being used to bring down elected governments? Who will be held accountable for ministerial corruption?
It takes no sides.
माँ का दर्द एक दर्द कोई नहीं समझ सकता उस दर्द को.
It reveals. It heals.
Angry people came out on the streets.
Is this the kind of justice system we want in this country?
News is all heart and no hatred.
बिल्किस बानो आज क्या कहना चाहेंगी आप?
हमारे साथ जो हुआ है किसी के साथ भी नहीं होना चाहिए.
Experience the news. With me, Rajdeep Sardesai, only on India Today.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal were eliminated from the FIFA World Cup, bringing an end to Ronaldo's dream of lifting the trophy. Here's a look at how a campaign that started so promisingly but ended with Ronaldo and the group in tears.
And yeah, it's a shame for Ronaldo, for Portugal. But
sport can often be cruel, and never was this more evident than when Cristiano Ronaldo broke down after Portugal's elimination from the FIFA World Cup.
It's Ronaldo, it's 1-0.
Their campaign had started well enough as Ronaldo scored in their win over Ghana, and Portugal beat Uruguay thereafter as well.
Portugal in front.
Son still going, support arriving. But the warning signs began flashing when Portugal lost to South Korea, and it didn't help that Ronaldo's form had also tapered off. Ronaldo was named in the worst 11 of the group stages, and a fan poll revealed that up to 70% of fans wanted him benched against Switzerland.
Ronaldo starting for them today.
They got their wish as Ronaldo was dropped and his replacement Gonzalo Ramos scored a hat-trick.
In by Diogo Dalot and niftily touched home at the near post.
Meaning Ronaldo stayed on the bench against Morocco. He came off the bench with Portugal trailing Morocco 1-0, but was unable to bring them back into the game despite his best efforts.
And Bono wrapped it up.
His dreams crushed, there will be no happy ending for Ronaldo. But his legacy will remain untouched, even without a World Cup trophy.
A chance like that is not
Sports Bureau, India Today.
Here's some big breaking news coming in. Explosive new facts about the Tawang Clash between India and China. Exclusive scoop that India Today gathers on the Indian Army's response. Chinese troops chased, thrashed, overpowered. Indian troops have chased the Chinese troops, in some capturing a handful of them as well. Unnerved and under threat of being overwhelmed, we hear the Chinese troops fired warning shots in the air and literally ran back to save their lives. Shiv Arur joining us live for a little more on this. Shiv, this inside scoop that India Today has accessed speaks extensively on how Chinese troops were overpowered. Lucky that India had all 3 units of the army present right there, showing India's might. Do give us a little more on what happened.
Nabila, first, a very serious disclaimer. What has happened in Tawang is an extremely serious issue. It is not, meant to be the subject matter of any kind of jingoism or chest thumping, because this is a real life and death situation for Indian troops, deployed in that area. So I don't want to, over sentimentalize what has happened. This is a brawl that took a very, very ugly turn. There have been many brawls in that area as well. So the safety of Indian troops has to be absolutely paramount. Now that we have out of the way, let's share with our viewers a few more very, very crucial details that have not come out so far, in this December 9th clash that took place. Now, we've reported already that it was a clash, that there were injuries on both sides. At least 9 Indian soldiers were injured. About 22 Chinese soldiers were injured. Now we actually know why, there is that, what exactly happened once the clash began. The clash lasted for about 25 to 30 minutes is what we're told, Nabila. But the numbers, the Chinese that had come there in numbers, did not expect that they would be outnumbered by an Indian side, which was actually preempting their arrival. The Indian side had pre-deployed, they had advanced intelligence about the possibility of such an intrusion and an attack by the Chinese side from that particular post in Yangtze. So they had pre-deployed on certain ridge lines, and when the Chinese came in, they were attacked almost immediately. There was verbal abuse initially between the two sides, which quickly escalated into stone pelting, and then there were fisticuffs. A lot of hand-to-hand combat between both sides, which lasted for quite a while. But the interesting, piece of information that we are now breaking is that the Chinese side was completely overwhelmed. This was nothing like Galwan. In fact, this was just the opposite. The Chinese side was completely overwhelmed. I'm talking overwhelmed in terms of numbers, and they were practically chased back. It soon dawned on them that there was no possibility of them remaining in that area and, maybe possibly even living to tell the tale. And they were literally chased back towards their side. Remember, there's no demarcated line there, so we need to be careful to say their side, our side, because this is one area which is disputed. But the fact that they were chased back towards their post and so under threat was that post and the Chinese soldiers that they actually fired some warning shots with firearms because they probably felt that the post would have been under threat, by the Indian side as well. We need to be careful about the facts as well about where the Indian side was. But Indian troops, I am told by my sources in Arunachal Pradesh, that they were really aggressive. They beat back the Chinese intruders, so much so that they went pretty much across onto their side as well. During the skirmish, the Indian side also, while the Chinese were retreating, they also took hold of 5 or 6 of these Chinese soldiers who were trying to retreat. These were the ones who had indulged in some of that violence and kept them for a couple of hours, and then they were sent back as well. They used loudspeakers. The Indian side went on to the Chinese side. They stood their ground over there. Very, very aggressive. There were at least 2 army regiments. I'm not going to name which units were involved, but they were there. Very aggressive posturing from the Indian side. They used loudspeakers. Both sides used loudspeakers, and they basically sort of communicated with each other in a very hostile, aggressive manner for a couple of hours. And then finally, when things had cooled down just a little bit, the Indian side then cooled things down and then retreated back towards the Indian side and the Indian post. So it was sending out a very, very aggressive warning to the Chinese side through that loudspeaker and by being overwhelmed that do not try such misadventures. We know what you're trying to do, and this is the kind of response you will receive. That's what happened, Nabila.
Shiv, wow. From what we hear, clearly Indian side was mighty prepared, literally chased off the Chinese troops, and we hear warning shots were fired. Would you be able to elaborate for us what exactly do warning shots signify?
The warning shots basically signifies that the Chinese post, felt so vulnerable and was so unnerved by this large number of Indian troops that were, seen to be moving towards them in an aggressive manner, that they fired warning shots, possibly suspecting or possibly feeling threatened by the numbers that they saw. Remember, this is a familiar sight. The Indian side had seen something very similar in Galwan. This time, not in the same kinds of numbers, but it looks like there was a bit of a role reversal this time, Nabila, where the Chinese side was a little smaller, it felt a little vulnerable, and there were much larger, well-prepared numbers of Indians. The difference here, of course, is in both cases, both in Galwan as well as in Yangtze, the treachery, the violation of protocol was by one side, that is the Chinese side. They were trying to create facts on the ground. They were trying to violate the line of actual control. So the warning shots that they fired from their post, their actual military post, was basically to say, don't come any nearer. You're approaching our post, which is not allowed, so don't come any nearer. We are armed and ready for you. So that's a kind of military message that they were sending out to say, don't come any nearer. Remember, firearms are not supposed to be used during patrols, but clearly this was something that had escalated. The Chinese had been overwhelmed. They were unnerved by the brute strength, if I can use that phrase, of the Indian response. The Indian side did not wait. That's another piece of information that we have here, Nabila, is that the Indian side did not wait for things to escalate beyond a point. The first red line that was crossed, the stone pelting, elicited and triggered an immediate vicious response from the Indian side. And I imagine that's one of the reasons why during the Chinese retreat, the Indian side, sort of bit very hard into that situation. They captured some of them. They went on to the Chinese side, possibly, put that Chinese post under threat in some manner. We don't know what distance they were standing at. And that very, very aggressive message was sent out. So it's a very no-nonsense kind of operation. Unfortunately, some Indian soldiers, sustained some minor injuries in the skirmish. One of them, I'm told, has sustained a wrist fracture as well and is being treated in Guwahati. But apart from that, the Indian side definitely sending out a very, very aggressive message about don't mess with us.
Right, and as we know, this information coming to fore here, it's quite blatant. China has downplayed this entire issue, saying that the situation is now stable. That's all they really have to say. And evidently so, as you narrate really how Chinese troops were literally chased back. And when you speak of these warning shots that were fired, does that mean that the Chinese troops were armed? Does this mean that the soldiers along the border areas on both ends are usually armed and don't and refrain from resorting to any kind of weaponry attack?
Nabila, at the military posts themselves, soldiers and troops stationed there are armed. They can carry firearms because ultimately that is a border post. It needs to be armed. Without weapons, it's actually meaningless to have a post. But it is during the patrolling, the actual manned patrols that go out on those patrolling routes, along the line of actual control, those are not supposed to carry firearms. But as we've seen since Galwan, the rules of engagement and the border, peace agreement between India and China has been in tatters. The trust deficit is at an all-time low. Neither side trusts the other not to violate protocols, even though it is only China that has violated the protocols repeatedly, including this time as well. We are told that some of them carried melee weapons this time as well. During the skirmish, we are told some of those weapons were used against the Chinese, during the fisticuffs that took place. So, as far as treachery, as far as violations are concerned, it is only one country that has ever done this. And on your point of China downplaying it, I'm not surprised. I'm actually wondering where Global Times is, where all their journalists and spokespersons are, because we remember the blaring propaganda that took place after Galwan, but I don't think we should be holding our breaths, because China is probably looking for a way to tell this story a little better, because as we understand it right now, it's not a story they want to share with their domestic audiences.
Of course, quite an embarrassment there, and clearly a matter that India has really dealt with phenomenally in the last few years. If you could really highlight the kind of infrastructure built up along these friction points post the Galwan incident, Shiv, only so that it's reassuring for us to know that we're prepared, very well prepared to face a troop like the Chinese army.
It's important that you mentioned infrastructure, Nabila, because remember that the entire standoff that took place began in 2020. One of the big, not all, but one of the big trigger points was Indian infrastructure being built. And ever since then, the Chinese side has been relentless in the construction of infrastructure, whether it is radar sites, whether it is, landing grounds, whether it is permanent accommodations for troops, whether it is high altitude hospital facilities. All of these things have been built, on their side of the, of Tibet. And the fact is, China is concerned, has settled into a dangerous status quo, which is not good for India. India today happens to be the only channel that is reporting this story, with a measure of realism and factual information, and not the, embarrassing jingoism and chest thumping of a few other channels, which, are ridiculously low on facts. Because as someone who's covered the military for a long time, I want to emphasize once again, this isn't something that civilians should be chest thumping about. There are families of troops out there. There are families of soldiers and officers out there who are watching India Today, who are watching the news, and we will only report this factually. These are brave individuals who are out there simply following orders and choosing to defend the country. Not something we should be chest thumping or being jingoistic about. This is their duty, and we need to respect it by reporting it factually, and we will continue to do that, Nabila.
Right, Shiv, maybe not chest thumping, but we're certainly proud of our brave soldiers, that the way they've literally chased back the Chinese troops, literally who ran for cover at that point. Indian side, the casualties are minimum. We hear there are some reports of some broken limbs coming from the Chinese side, but naturally here, China downplaying this entire incident. Thank you, Shiv, for joining us on that. We're slipping into a short break. We'll be right back with news and updates on the other side. Stay with us.
AIMIM is all set to contest elections. We are being told it will likely be on 13 to 15 seats in North Karnataka for 2023 state assembly elections. Owaisi is likely to visit Hubballi in December, and all these constituencies have a sizable Muslim population that the AIM will want to cash in on. In 2018, AIMIM chosen not to contest elections and extended support to JDS supporting them. Not just AIMIM, even 25 Shriram Sene members will now run as independent in the 2023 Karnataka Assembly polls. The 25 members represent areas as diverse as Bengaluru, coastal Karnataka specifically, and even North Karnataka. Karnataka Assembly elections are likely to take place around May 2023. Former BJP politician and mining tycoon Gali Janardhan Reddy is preparing to start his new party ahead of Karnataka elections. According to sources close to Reddy, he has already decided to create the Kalyan Rajya Pragati Paksha party and is going to Delhi to get the party registered. Congress MLA Tanveer Said's close aide and his wife threatened KSRTC officials with a sickle. Shafi and wife rented a space in KSRTC bus stand, didn't pay rent for the space, and up to 1.80 crore rupees is what they had to pay from the last 2 years. Congress MLA's close aide's wife threatened the officials when they went to recover the money. India's one of biggest social media sensations right now is Urfi Javed. She's often making headlines for her sartorial choices, but now may have landed herself in a legal trouble. An FIR has been filed against her for alleged illegal and obscene actions in public place and on social media. On Friday, an application was submitted by lawyer Ali K. Ashraf Khan Deshmukh at Andheri police station in Mumbai. Now, Urfi has hit back at the lawyer, stating, "I'm amazed how people have no problem against those who openly threaten to rape and kill me, but over my clothes." Sharpening the attack, she has said, "People have a problem with me because of the clothes that I wear, but not with men who rape and murder." Remember, giving you a background here, the social media influencer has always been on the top of a game in the entertainment world, is one of the favorites of the paparazzi for her unique, quirky fashion.
Presented by धूल आए पर घर पे ना टिक पाए।
Good afternoon. You're watching India Today. I'm Nabila Jamal. Our top news on the India-China clashes. We're bringing you every detail. The headlines first. Explosive new facts about Tawang Clash. Inside scoop on Indian Army's response. Chinese troops were chased, thrashed and overpowered. Chinese troops completely overwhelmed as the Indian Army was fully prepared. India thwarts Chinese Army's bid to uproot an Indian post in Tawang. Defense Minister says China tried to alter status quo, but India didn't allow the intrusion bill.
PLA ट्रुप्स ने तवांग सेक्टर के यांगसे एरिया में लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर अतिक्रमण कर स्टेटस को एक तरफा बदलने का प्रयास किया। चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है, अध्यक्ष महोदय।
Massive war words over Tawang clashes. Opposition accuses Modi of secrecy over the clashes. Amit Shah counters, says Congress's Ruckus a bid to shield Rajiv Gandhi Trust, which was funded by China.
ये जो राशि चीनी दूतावास से मिली, इसका उपयोग भारत चीन संबंधों के विकास पर शोध करने के लिए ये पैसा दिया गया।
China sets up division-level headquarters along Pangong despite multiple rounds of de-escalation talks with India. After his murder, Modi tirade. Cops arrest Congress Neta Raja Pateria from Madhya Pradesh's Damoh. Ugly fight between Bollywood divas. Actor Nora Fatehi sues Jacqueline. Nora claims she's lost reputation and endorsement deals owing to what Jacqueline Fernandez said. Well, the first visual representation of the likely flashpoint in Yangtze, high-resolution satellite images from the day of the reported clashes. India Today bringing you the latest pictures from the December 9th show on how Indian Army was prepared. These are some of the graphic images that we present to you showing or rather representing the likely flashpoint in the Yangtze region. High-resolution satellite images from the day of the reported clash. Pictures from December 9th show how Indian Army was very well prepared. Now, the Chinese road is quite visible in the high-resolution imagery. The Chinese road very visible with the Indian troops fully prepared. 3 units of the army that were present quite overwhelmed the Chinese troops. They did not expect the might of India. And as they approached the line of actual control and tried to intrude, Indian army was quick to thwart their attempts and literally pushed them back and entered the Chinese side only to show force. This is satellite images showing very clearly how the Chinese, in fact, the road for the Chinese troops that they took towards the line of actual control as they progressed, where the Indian troops were fully prepared in strength. Let me cut across to Ankit Kumar, giving us an understanding on these high-resolution satellite images. Ankit, a quick word from you. These images here, fully representing the likely flashpoint along that region in Tawang. Explain to us.
Well, Nabila, these are the first verified piece of visual evidence that tell the story as to what exactly must have happened in that sector at the point zero of the LAC between India and China. What these images show is, these images were captured on 9th of December, the day when these clashes took place. What these images show is the development of a new ever-expanding Chinese military village and a new road that leads from that village toward the LAC. But the big headline that comes from these images is that Tawang was no Galwan. Remember, 2 years back, June 14, 15, 2020, when we brought the first satellite pictures after the Galwan clash, after the brutal hand-to-hand combat, one thing that stood out was how outnumbered Indian armed forces were there back in the eastern Ladakh when the incident happened. Fortunately, and the good thing was yesterday that when the report comes and we check the first high-resolution images, we can conclusively establish that at this point of time, Indian armed forces were well prepared. Our infrastructure was even better than what PLA would have hoped. And that's why the kind of news report that we're hearing, that Indian armed forces did not sustain any grave injuries, that the Chinese troops, the intruding PLA troops, were chased away, and that no part of the land that belongs to India, no part of the land which India used to take control of, no part of the land, at least going by these available satellite imagery, has been conceded or has been lost. There is no buffer zone, unlike Eastern Ladakh or Galwan. There is no buffer zone like Pangang So, where there was a no man's land which was created back in 2020. In this case, there are forward posts. Some posts look eye to eye. Some posts are situated within few meters of distance. So what we have seen in this imagery is that over past few years, the road infrastructure has improved, especially in the forward locations. I'm speaking about India. Of course, China has been expanding its infrastructure, but these images show that at least in this region, the intruding PLA troops were in for a big, big surprise.
Right. Ankit, give us an understanding on the road that we see leading towards the line of actual control there in that region, Yangtze, and the satellite images there very clearly showing the demarcation as well, which the PLA troops have managed to mount. So they've gone all the way thousands of feet at a height, only to with an intention to try and broaden their claimed territory. It was a deliberate intention to create friction there. They knew that they will be meeting with the Indian troops at that point, but yet took that risk. Explain to us that imagery really showing very clearly the Chinese road that leads up to the line of actual control.
Well, there are three important elements in these pictures for our viewers to understand. First is the Chinese village. China, of course, will maintain that it's a civilian village. It's not. It's like many military villages that China has constructed very close to the LAC, which it uses to kind of carry out these kind of operations. So the story starts from development of that military village. That village started to surface on satellite imagery a couple of years back. The imagery that we are showing was taken on 9th of December. What it shows is that that village is still going through upgrades. There are raised grounds, could be used as maybe a heliport or maybe as an underground facility. We don't know that yet. Connecting that village to the LAC is the new wide road. There used to be a kacha road earlier, but this new wide pakka road, it started showing up in satellite images somewhere in mid 2022, so earlier this year. In the east to the road, there is this prized peak that PLA wants possession of. This peak is what we have been reporting, the 17,000 feet peak, capped with white snow. That is the vantage point that China wants in this region, because that gives advantage to the PLA troops. They would be able to kind of monitor all the activities that is going towards the Indian side. And precisely what has happened here is that using those military villages, Chinese PLA troops must have tried to intrude towards that high peak, that 17,000 feet peak. And what these images show is that new forward deployment posts were created to thwart the movement of the intruding PLA troops. Nabila?
All right, Ankit, thank you very much for joining us on that. This is the first images right here only on India Today that you see high-resolution images giving you an understanding of that border area. Let me take you through some of the top developments coming in on the India-China clash. Amid the ongoing clash between India and China in the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has made a statement in the parliament. He said that PLA troops encroached upon and tried to alter status quo. He's also added that this situation was tackled by the Indian troops quite effectively and Chinese troops were pushed back in time. Soon after the parliament session started, question hour was adjourned due to opposition's demand that the border clash issue be mentioned before any other matter. Backfiring at the opposition, Home Minister Amit Shah has alleged that the Congress was blocking the question hour due to a discussion that was scheduled on the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation funds. Shah alleges that funds were transferred by Chinese embassy all the way from 2005 to 2007 to that trust. The India-China clash has become a political issue now, hitting out at the centre. The Congress claimed that the reason there was no mention of the clash that took place on December 9th is because the Modi government wanted to finish the Gujarat swearing-in ceremony first. Rajnath Singh held a key meeting along with senior military authorities to discuss clashes between Indian and the Chinese forces along the line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Defence Minister, Chief of Defence Staff Anil Chauhan, all three service chiefs have attended that meeting. Before December 9th clash between India and China along the line of actual control in Tawang, there were multiple occasions where the Indian fighter jets had to be scrambled to respond to Chinese aggression. Reportedly, Chinese drones were flying aggressively into the Indian territory, and the IAF deployed drones as well in response. All right, now Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, addressing both houses of the parliament, has said that China tried to change status quo at Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang sector. Rajnath Singh informed the parliament that Chinese troops entered Yangtze area of Tawang in early hours of December 9th, attempted to change status quo there. Defence Minister has added that the Chinese troops were driven back by the timely intervention of the Indian military commanders. He's added that while few soldiers on both sides suffered injuries during the standoff, no Indian soldier was killed or sustained any grievous injuries. Rajnath Singh has further added that the matter was also taken up with China through diplomatic channels. In fact, the Defence Minister had chaired a key meeting right before he entered the Parliament. He met with External Affairs Minister, CDS, all three service chiefs, Foreign Secretaries and Defence Secretaries before his address in the Parliament.
भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया। हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है। घटना के पश्चात एरिया के लोकल कमांडर ने 11 दिसंबर 2022 को अपने चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट के साथ स्थापित व्यवस्था के तहत एक फ्लैग मीटिंग की और इस घटना पर चर्चा की। चीनी पक्ष को इस तरह के एक्शन के लिए मना किया गया और सीमा पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए कहा गया। हमारी सेनाएं हमारी भौमिक अखंडता को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और इसके खिलाफ किसी भी प्रयास को रोकने के लिए सदैव तत्पर है हमारी भारत की सेना।
All right, I'm going to cut across to Abhishek Bhalla tracking those developments for us. Abhishek, we know the inside scoop tells us very clearly how Indian forces literally scared away the Chinese troop, chased them back to where they came from. And in fact, at one point, Indian troops have also moved into the Chinese side only to show force and deter them for making an attempt of this nature. Abhishek, a quick word as China downplays this entire incident. What do we know of the Indian Army's might there?
Well, Nabila, what we've been reporting since last evening about the Chinese attempt to take control of an Indian position, dislodge an Indian post, in fact, at a mountain peak, 17,000 feet, that has been confirmed by the Defence Minister of the country. When he spoke in Parliament today, he clearly said that China made an attempt to encroach into Indian territory. They were trying to take control of some places and they were trying to change status quo, is what he said very clearly. And that's why, this clash had taken place. What we also know is that there was a build-up over the last 15-20 days. Yangtze is a disputed area. There are 8 disputed areas when it comes to India and China. Only one of them is completely in Indian control, and which is Yangtze. And this is why the Chinese are often riled up as far as this place is concerned. And over the years, there have been several attempts made. There have been several scuffles in this area, face-offs in this area. But this time, things had turned ugly because the Chinese came with an intent of misadventure. There was an intent to change status quo. They were there in large numbers. what sources have said is that about 300 PLA soldiers had gathered and they were making incursion attempts when it was thwarted. The reason it could be thwarted was because there has been a big thrust on enhancing India's surveillance capabilities in the eastern sector. In fact, I was in the Tawang sector last year, and the current Indian Army chief, who was then the Eastern Army commander, General Manoj Pande, had told us that there is an increase in Chinese patrols. There have been instances where integrated forces have been training together. So there were a lot of changes that were seen on the ground. So alarm bells were ringing last year. And what officials are saying is that something like this was bound to happen. Now that a major attempt to change status quo has been thwarted, it would be interesting to see what the next move from the Chinese side would be.
Well, Abhishek, certainly as we see, the Chinese troops have been scared away. They thought lightly of the Indian army, clearly, and which is why they even attempted to try and infringe that border line. The line of actual control, status quo has been maintained, but China constantly trying to alter status quo. All right, cutting across to Gaurav Gogoi, addressing a press conference on the Chinese clashes. Listen.
भारत की जो अखंडता है उसकी सुरक्षा भाजपा सरकार नहीं कर पा रही। कोई ठोस रणनीति नहीं है। समय कहां है? सांप्रदायिक राजनीति और निर्वाचन के अलावा इनके पास समय कहां है देश के बारे में सोचने के लिए? चीन ने एक ऐसा हमारे सामने एक समस्या खड़ी कर दी है। पूरी सरकार और सारे दलों को एक साथ कर एक ठोस हमको एक स्ट्रेटेजी बनाना है, रणनीति बनाना है, लेकिन समय कहां है? आज हमारी चीन के साथ जहां पे हम उनकी बायलैटरल ट्रेड बढ़ती जा रही है। आज विदेश मंत्री जयशंकर जी बोलते हैं कि नहीं, जब तक सीमा पर पहले जैसी अवस्था नहीं रहेगी तो भारत और चीन के रिश्तों के बीच में पहले जैसा वातावरण नहीं होगा। तो बार बार बायलैटरल ट्रेड क्यों बढ़ रहा है? जिस बायलैटरल ट्रेड से चीन को ज्यादा फायदा हो रहा है। तो हमारी इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रेटेजी क्या है? आपने चीन के कुछ एप्स को बैन कर दिया, बस जहां पे चीन के कंपनी और इकोनॉमी को इंडिया के इकोनॉमी के साथ ट्रेड करके फायदा हो रहा है। ये इन छोटे छोटे एप्स को बैन करके आप किसको डरा रहे हैं? क्या संदेश जा रहा है देश भारत सरकार से कि जब भी चीन हमारे सीमा पर अपनी आंख उठाएगा तो हम उनके 2-3 एप्स बंद कर देंगे और उनके साथ पहले जैसा हम ट्रेड करते रहेंगे, जिस ट्रेड के द्वारा अरबपति और सबसे अमीरों जो व्यापारी हैं उनका फायदा हो रहा है। हमारा कोई फायदा नहीं है इसमें। लेकिन भारत सरकार आज चुप्पी बैठी है। भारत सरकार की डिप्लोमेटिक स्ट्रेटेजी क्या है? दक्षिण आसिया में जहां पर हमारे रिश्ते
All right, as we see politics now that continues to rage over India-China clashes, on December 9th, opposition has fired a fresh salvo at the centre, accusing Prime Minister Modi of delaying this information, basically accusing him of secrecy over the clashes in Tawang. Congress has hit out at the centre, alleging that Modi government did not reveal clashes that happened on December 9th because they waited for the oath-taking ceremony in Gujarat. Union Home Minister Amit Shah has lashed out at the opposition over questioning the foreign funds that was received by Sonia-led Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. In fact, Amit Shah alleges that India missed out on a permanent UN Security Council membership because of Jawaharlal Nehru. Massive ruckus also erupted in the parliament over the Tawang clashes, with opposition now cornering the government, accusing them of hiding facts.
कि राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन को 2005-6 और 2006-7 के वित्तीय वर्षाल में चीनी दूतावास से 1 करोड़ 35 लाख रुपए का अनुदान प्राप्त हुआ था। चूंकि एफसीआरए के कानून और उसकी मर्यादाओं के अनुरूप नहीं था, तो नोटिस देकर पूर्णतया कानूनी प्रक्रिया का अनुपालना करते हुए गृह मंत्रालय ने इसका रजिस्ट्रेशन रद्द किया था। 1962 में जो हजारों हेक्टेयर भूमि भारत की चीन ने हड़प ली वो शामिल था क्या? और शोध इस पर किया तो रिपोर्ट क्या आई है? नेहरू जी के प्रेम के कारण सुरक्षा परिषद में भारत की स्थायी सदस्यता बलि चढ़ गई। इस विषय को उन्होंने शोध का विषय बनाया था क्या? और अगर बनाया था तो इसका नतीजा क्या हुआ? राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के FCRA लाइसेंस रद्द होने का एक दूसरा भी कारण था इस्लामिक रिसर्च फाउंडेशन की, जिसका प्रणेता जाकिर नायक है। जाकिर नायक को पूरा देश जानता है। उनसे भी 7 जुलाई 2011 को 50 लाख रुपया राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन ने प्राप्त किया था। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन के कर्ता धर्ता जो कांग्रेस की फैमिली पार्टी है उसी के सदस्य हैं, तो आपको ये पैसा जाकिर नाइक ने किस मकसद के लिए दिया था? इसकी भी स्पष्टता देश की जनता के सामने होनी चाहिए।
मुंह तोड़ सेना के पीछे क्यों छुप रहे हैं? आप डर रहे हैं चीन का नाम लेने से। आप देश के प्रधानमंत्री, आप सत्ता में हैं। डोकलाम में आपने देश को गलत कहा, डिसएंगेजमेंट कहा, वहाँ चीन बैठा हुआ है। प्रधानमंत्री ने लद्दाख के वक्त कहा था कि ना कोई घुसाए ना घुसाए, चीन घुस के बैठा है। डिसएंगेजमेंट आप करते हैं और उस मुकाम पर पेट्रोलिंग नहीं कर सकते हम पोंगसोंसू लेक में। इस अरुणाचल प्रदेश में जहाँ पर झगड़ा हुआ है, लड़ाई हुई है, 12-13 हज़ार फीट नीचे से चीन ऊपर आता है, आकर हमारे फौज पे हमला करता है। क्या हो रहा है इस देश में बताइए? कौन सा राष्ट्रवाद है भाजपा का? भारत की प्रधानमंत्री से अपील कर रहे हैं कि आप पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप दिखाइए इसमें। चीन का नाम लेने से क्यों डरते हैं आप? क्यों डर रहे हैं आप? आपने तो उठकर जाकर मिला था बाली में चीन के लीडर से। अब देखिए क्या हो रहा है हमारे से।
All right, on that note, we're going to slip into a short break. On the other side, it's our entertainment special in the club. Stay with us.
India Today exit poll silences all.
The BJP is set to record history in Gujarat.
Projected total tsunami in Gujarat.
The biggest ever BJP victory in Gujarat.
Only poll calling Congress win in Himachal.
Congress 30 to 40 seats in this election.
Validated, vindicated, victorious. When you are an outlier, it shows. No hurt mentality, 100% courage and ability.
Access My India Today group exact poll. Once again.
Strength of conviction proved again.
We have the most accurate pollster with us. The only pollster picked it absolutely bang on.
The gold standard of getting it right.
Treadmill test, ECGs and EEGs. Well, these aren't the only diagnostic tools available right now to diagnose heart disease. There has been a sea change when it comes to diagnostic tools to identify and detect heart disease. Take a look. Blood test, C-reactive protein, an inflammatory protein where higher levels indicate higher risk of cardiac arrest. Plasma ceramides. Their detection has been linked to plaque buildup in the heart and taken to be a sign of blockage. Brain natriuretic peptides, a hormone often secreted to help ease pressure on a heart when it is experiencing problems pumping. Calcium scoring, which helps determine plaque buildup in the heart. Troponin T, which indicates increased levels of the protein that have been linked to increased risk. While medical science is still exploring the benefits of meditation, there is enough anecdotal evidence to suggest that meditation indeed helps us in managing our stress levels and does wonders as far as the body and our mind is concerned. Take a look at this report. We seriously recommend meditation. The COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges it brought with it has tested man like never before. stress related to the pandemic, loss of a loved one, loss of livelihood, stay-at-home stress, fear of disease has put the spotlight more than ever on the need to practice mindfulness and meditation.
It's a straight war between the two Bollywood divas. Actor Nora Fatehi has dragged fellow actor Jacqueline Fernandez to the court. Suing Jacqueline for defamation in the 200 crore rupees extortion case, Nora said she's unfairly being dragged into the Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scandal. Contending that her image is being tarnished, Nora alleged she is losing her reputation and endorsement deals because of Jacqueline's alleged statements. Nora also denied taking any gifts from conman Sukesh. Jacqueline's lawyer, however, was quick to rubbish Nora's charges, saying that the remarks were made in court and not publicly to cause harm.
If certain media agencies have quoted what my client has stated before the Honorable Adjudicating Authority, that is at Delhi, that is a written submission made before a particular court or a quasi-judicial official. Now that cannot be dragged out by media agencies and quoted in the public domain, because that is a part and parcel of an argument or a pleading, which is a judicial proceeding.
Jacqueline, while confronting the Enforcement Directorate, had said that she was treated differently in comparison to Nora. The actor claimed that Nora was also conned the same way she was by Sukesh, who is now lodged in Tihar jail. She also urged the probe agency to treat Nora as accused and not the witness in the case. The ED, in its supplementary charge sheet filed in the extortion case against Sukesh in a Delhi High Court, mentioned Jacqueline Fernandez's name as an accused. Bureau Report, India Today.
I'll not say lights, camera, action today, but instead would say load, aim and shoot, as that's what filmmaker S.S. Rajamouli and the team of RRR has been doing ever since their movie hit cinemas in March 2022. Hello and welcome. You're watching our special broadcast. I'm Dipali Patel, and in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to give you a lowdown on everything RRR, the movie which has been making the right noise not just in India but across the globe. That's right. 9 months after roaring at the box office, the period drama starring Ram Charan and Junior NTR has now made India proud by bagging 2 nominations, one for Best Picture in Non-English Language and the second for Best Original Song at the Golden Globes 2023. Joining me on the show today will also be my entertainment editor, Tushar Joshi, who is gonna give us his expertise on these nods. But before that, let's take a look at how this will change the game for RRR and for, of course, Indian cinema. RRR is unstoppable.
పులిని పట్టుకోవాలంటే వేటగాడు కావాలి. ఆ పని చేయగలిగేది ఒక్కడే సార్.
SS Rajmouli's magnum opus is roaring loud and how. One award after another, one accolade after another, and now it's Golden Globes.
బ్రిటిష్ ప్రభుత్వానికి ఎదురు తిరిగిన నేరానికి నేను అరెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను.
That's right. The nominees for Golden Globes 2023 were announced, and RRR has bagged not just one but 2 nominations at the prestigious award ceremony, making India proud.
తొక్కుకుంటూ పోవాలి, ఎదురొచ్చినోడిని ఏసుకుంటూ పోవాలి.
చాలా ప్రమాదం, ప్రాణాలు పోతాయిరా.
Nomination number 1, Best Motion Picture, Non-English Language. The film has been nominated in the Best Motion Picture in Non-English Language category, from its larger-than-life VFX to storytelling to cinematography. This period drama has been dominating global theatre experience ever since it released.
Praise yourself for Ram. ఈ నక్కల వేట ఎంతసేపు? కుంభస్థలాన్ని బద్దల కొడతాం పదా. Not salsa, not flamenco, my brother. Do you know?
Nomination number 2, Best Original Song, Natu Natu.
పొలం గట్టు దుమ్ములోన పోట్ల గిట్ట దూకినట్టు పొలేరమ్మ జాతరలో పోతరాజు ఊగినట్టు గిర్రు చెప్పులేసుకొని కర్ర సాము చేసినట్టు మర్రి సొట్టు నీడలోన కుర్ర గుంపు కూడినట్టు ఎర్ర జొన్న రొట్టెలోన మిరప తొక్కు కలిపినట్టు నా పాట చూడు, నా పాట చూడు, నా పాట చూడు. నాటు 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 వీర నాటు.
Natu Natu has been one of the most talked about dance numbers of the year. Visuals of audience members leaving their seat in the theatres and matching steps had circulated online on several occasions. Natu Natu is sung by Rahul Sipliganj and Kala Bhairava, while the lyrics have been penned by M.M. Kiravani. The nominations were announced by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association and were also posted on Golden Globes Awards official Twitter handle, which also congratulated all the nominees. Soon after the nominations were announced, the team of RRR took to social media to share the good news. Their statement read, "We are very grateful that RRR movies made it to the nominations of Golden Globes for Best Picture, Non-English Language and the Best Original Song." Even Alia Bhatt was all hearts about this exciting news. Filmmaker Shekhar Kapoor too took a moment and expressed his views on Golden Globes nominations for RRR. He wrote, and we quote, "The path to the Oscars for RRR becomes clearer. But I still don't get why the Golden Globes hold on to a category called Best Film in a Non-English Language. RRR deserves to be in the Best Film category. Period. Congratulations, SS Rajamouli." Karan Johar also shared his reaction on RRR reaching this milestone. What's more, RRR will be competing with other non-English language films including Korean romantic mystery film Decision to Leave, German anti-war drama All Quiet on the Western Front, historical drama Argentina 1985, and French-Dutch coming-of-age drama Close to bring this prestigious award home. While in the Best Original Song category, RRR will have a face-off with Carolina from Where the Crawdads Sing, Ciao Papa from Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick.
బ్రిటిష్ ప్రభుత్వానికి ఎదురు తిరిగిన నేరానికి నేను అరెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను. తొంగి తొంగి నక్కి నక్కి.
Meanwhile, the stride of SS Rajamouli's dream project doesn't end here and is all set to roll even louder at the Oscars. The makers are leaving no stone unturned to submit the film as an independent entry for the Academies after Cello Show beat it to become India's official nomination.
ఆనందంగా ఇచ్చేస్తాను బాబాయ్.
యుద్ధాన్ని వెతుక్కుంటూ ఆయుధాలు వాటంతటవే వస్తాయి.
The campaign for the same are in full swing, and if you jog your memory, RRR has been submitted for Best Motion Picture category. Nominations have also been submitted for SS Rajamouli for Best Director, while both the main leads, Junior NTR and Ram Charan, are also being pushed to be considered in the running for Best Actor Award. Ajay Devgan and Alia Bhatt's name have also been submitted to the nominations in Best Supporting Actor and Actress categories. While Natu Natu has been submitted for Best Original Song and M.M. Keeravani's name has been sent by the makers for Best Original Score. The film will have a go at Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, Best Film Editing and Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Made on a whopping budget of rupees 550 crore rupees, the fictional story was based on lives of two Telugu freedom fighters, Alluri Sitaramaraju and Komarama Bhim, played by Ram Charan and Junior NTR respectively. And apart from receiving rave reviews, the film's lifetime collection ended at the humongous sum of over 1,000 crores. With Gyana Shah Malik, Entertainment Bureau, India Today. Now, as you all saw how RRR is the only Indian film to make it to the final 5. It's also the first big mainstream nomination. Tushar Joshi, who broke the nominations news as soon as they were announced, is with me at the moment. Tushar, you and I both have seen RRR and we know how important the win at the Golden Globes is for RRR at the moment. Also because it gives us a hint at what Oscars will look like. While I'm rooting for the film, I also think that the song Natu Natu has more potential to win Golden Globes 2023. I want to know from you, Tushar, what are the chances for the win and what are your thoughts about it?
Dipali, before we discuss what are the odds of RRR making it to the Oscar Awards come March, let's first congratulate Team RRR. You know, this was not an easy feat, getting 2 big nominations at the Golden Globe Awards. It's a huge thing. And I think this is an interesting trend because over the last few weeks, RRR has been in the US. When I say RRR means the captain of the ship, SS Rajamouli, has been in the West campaigning and lobbying, asking Americans to go watch the film, asking important members of the foreign press who are responsible for casting their votes, go watch the film. What is interesting, however, Dipali, is that your question, does this mean that RRR will have a chance of winning any nominations at the Oscar Awards? For that, we'll have to consider 2 major things. One is, who are the Golden Globes? The Golden Globes comprises of the Hollywood foreign press. The members of the Golden Globes have no say whatsoever in casting a vote at the Oscars. They're completely different bodies. They're completely different people with different mindsets. In fact, the trend is that there's a 50% chance of any person who has won a nomination or an award at the Golden Globes making it to the Oscars. In fact, in the last few years, any film that has won Best Picture at the Golden Globes Awards has not really shown the merit to sort of make Academy Awards believe that they should vote for it. So the chances are heavy, like you said, for Natu especially, because Americans and people all over the world have been going crazy. But let me remind you that Natu faces